Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slam Hub Wrestling. Myself, Supreet, and this is your main roster talk for the week. And I'm joined by Ridwan here. What's up, Ridwan?
Hey Supreet, how's it going? Been a
I'm
while.
doing well, man. What about you?
I'm doing okay as well. You know.
So, lot to talk about WWE for this week, man. It's been
Yes.
a shitstorm, you could say.
Oh, totally. Like they've given us 2 weeks worth of content that we could just finish within this episode itself. So
But let's get to that points, man. But before that, if you are new to Slam Hub Wrestling, then make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Check out our previous content. Like we did the NXT review this week. We had main roster talk like every week, and we also did a Double or Nothing review with Abhishek Kaneja. So check that out. And what you think about Double or Nothing, Ridwan?
it was an amazing show. A bit too long for my taste, but it was like fun throughout, except maybe one match, which you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. But let's talk about the thing that happened in WWE. So we have yet another, bunch of releases. We thought, that the stuff that happened a month ago was done, but it's going to be a thing, moving forward because it's the regime of Nick Khan now. So recently they have released. We have Braun Strowman, Alistair Black. We have Ruby Riot, Santana Garrett, and who else? Lana.
We had Buddy Murphy, Lana. We had Buddy Murphy. I think that's about it. We had 6 names. Yeah.
6. And they did say that the more releases will be coming. But yeah, man, what you
Yes.
think about this bunch of releases that they have? What you think about it?
Well, to go, I mean, one by one, obviously the biggest shocker was Braun Strowman because he was like just a month ago, he was in the WWE title picture. And to think he was just released willy nilly out of that was very shocking. And he did seem like someone who was a lifer. He would continue with WWE until he retires, but he's just got released. So this was like the biggest shocker. Apart from that, the other big shocker was obviously Alistair Black because he was like we literally saw him on TV last week.
And we
He
literally,
was
and I said that other than Roman Reigns, this is the reason, to tune into SmackDown. But here we are 2 weeks later.
mm, sad. And the reason that they've mentioned is budget cuts. I mean, it's normal with the whole how to run a business, and especially the biggest thing that that costed them was obviously the time they were bloating out their roster in 2019 thanks to AEW's existence. And to be honest, no one would have predicted that a pandemic would bite them so hard in the ass. So here we are. And as they've mentioned that it's going to be a regular thing now, like maybe it's going to be every week, or I don't think it's going to be every week, maybe like fortnight or every month. So we can expect a lot of names to be released, and most of them who aren't being used. And like I've mentioned earlier, like if they are released from WWE, it's not the end of the world, and there are a lot of things that they can do outside of WWE which is going to get them big name and value. So that's about it.
And
what
yeah,
what did
like
you think about the release?
I think the last time, they did the release, just a month ago, I said this budget cut, really doesn't make any sense because last year reportedly they did, some big money, on with the TV deal, and now you got the deal with Peacock, which is a quote unquote 1 billion deal, they say, but it
Yes,
doesn't make
same
sense
as the
only.
Fox.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't make
same as the
sense only.
Fox.
What budget cut? It doesn't make sense. Like, and
You
the other thing that they are saying, I said the new regime with Nick Khan. So they implemented that they don't want old guys on the roster. So that's the
let them
reason we don't have Samoa Joe. We don't have Mickey James, and I think they mentioned yet another name. So yeah, and you talked about Braun Strowman. Let's start with Braun Strowman. So this guy, you said he was a lifer, and he used to be, your big main event guy. So that's why they gave him a big contract. I think they gave him a. There was some negotiation during 2019 that
Yes.
they gave him a big money contract. So there's another rule that they don't want guys that are making big money but aren't being used and not uh, are not worth the roster space, you could say.
Yeah, he is. He was on a million a year contract, Braun. And by that, I think it makes a lot of sense. There is like a big disparity in the pay scale as well, so maybe they want to trim that, and it's understandable in a way, but still, given the circumstances, it's a little shaky.
the
But yeah.
the only thing I understood, is that they want to make even more profits. That's why they are cutting people.
It's unethical. But again, like, it's business at the end of the day. Whatever they want to do, they can.
But it still doesn't make sense. Like they are
It still
saying,
doesn't make
yeah,
sense.
they
That's
are
true.
saying that they are cutting off old people. Then why do you have people like Goldberg coming off?
Goldberg.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
is
it's
he
their
worth that
rule.
money?
No. I mean, as a name, as a big name, you could say, but not as a wrestler. You shouldn't. You can just put him in an ambassadorial role and just be happy with it. It's yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about this talents individually. Like Braun Strowman, like when he came in, to the Wyatt family, he was just there, and then when he finally broke out, and when he started to feud with Roman Reigns, is then that WWE established him into an entity, and they could have put the world title on him then, but the whole aura of him died, and he was just
It was
there on the roster.
Yes, it was a few years too late for Braun Strowman because he only won the Universal Championship last year, and that was because Roman Reigns wasn't able to compete at WrestleMania because of his immunocompromised state. And there were a lot of times they could have pulled the trigger on Braun Strowman. Like the one time maybe when he was facing Brock for the Universal Championship, he was done with one F5. And given it was Brock Lesnar, you could say it was okay. But after that, there were a lot of opportunities they could have just pulled the trigger and strike while the iron was hot, and which they didn't do, and it really made him fall off the ladder in terms of relevancy. But still, he was booked very strong, like from then till he there was when he was facing Corbin
Yeah, that
for
yeah
during
once
their feud.
yeah once they jobbed out, once they made him job out to Lesnar at that Saudi show, it was
Saudi show.
downhill.
Yes, and he was also turning heel just to get Roman cheered. You remember the whole Dogs of War stable when they tried to they reunited the Shield in 2018 before Roman's leukemia.
Yeah, I remember that time.
That like stop and start pushes, and he was the Money in the Bank winner, if I'm not mistaken, at that time. He cashed in during the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and he lost thanks to Brock Lesnar interfering. And the Hell in a Cell, that was also the time the Hell in a Cell main event ended in a no contest. Like, what the fuck?
Like the peak Braun Strowman was when he was feuding with Roman Reigns, flipping ambulances, flipping trucks. That's what got him
Yeah.
over.
Yes, and the throwing the chair on Roman Reigns, that was classic Braun.
Like now, about where he can go, the guy stated that he doesn't want to work anywhere except WWE.
You could understand that, but that was like when he was part of the company, he was shilling them at some point. But to be honest, I don't see him wrestle anywhere. He could just be happy with what and how he's earned. But if at all, like the tiny part of me wants him to go to New Japan and excel, because New Japan knows how to book the big guys strong. So in a way, I kind of want him to go there, but I'm okay if he doesn't want to wrestle. But there are some instances where a wrestler has come back to WWE in any shape or form, but which I do expect Braun Strowman to be one of those guys. But except WWE or maybe New Japan, I don't really see him wrestle anywhere else.
Yeah,
With all due respect.
yeah. I think if they want one guy to come back, it's gonna be Braun Strowman.
Of these releases, absolutely.
And do you remember what Braun Strowman said during the first cut of releases last year?
Yes, it was before his Mania main event, I believe. He said that if you are independent wrestler who is struggling to find work, then do find work. Don't stop bitching and moaning. And look where we are. It was like a bittersweet karma.
There you I brought this up not to make fun of him, but yeah, it is karma. And I wonder how this kind of attitude will work outside WWE.
If this was happening in New Japan, if he was in New Japan, and most of these young talent are made to do a lot of menial tasks, and if Brown refused to do that, he would have gotten his ass beat. Maybe by, let's say, imagine Brown versus Minoru Suzuki because of such story. It
He's
was
gonna be like the Lesnar, like what Lesnar did, in 2005 or 4.
for sure.
But yeah, man, that's about Lesnar. The other big name is Aleister Black. Like this legit pissed me off. Like 2 weeks ago, he was
Me
on a
too.
legit, like he made his return on TV. They were actually hyping him up with these video packages, and just like that, he's released. Like what the
I,
fuck?
Last week on TV, he was last week on SmackDown, and he gets cut. It's terrible.
I don't know what to say, but this is the guy that is gonna actually break out when that his 90-day expires.
Oh, anyone with the talent like Alistair Black, anyone in the country or around the world would love to have him. Like there's AEW who would be licking their lips on wanting to have someone like Alistair Black on their roster. And apart from that, Impact, I don't really see them, but he would be a huge asset to them, and if they want to establish their name further in the country. And obviously there's also New Japan, but I don't really see him fitting. I mean, he would, as a wrestler, 100%, he would rule the New Japan wrestling circuit. But I don't really see, where he would fit in New Japan, as he would be a part of a stable, or he would start his own, or you know how it goes. But this is one talent that I have zero worry for, I would say, and he would thrive anywhere he goes. He is a bit of a total package, you could say. He's got everything.
And did you hear what he said on his Twitch channel? The guy came off like he was pitching stuff a lot. And he also mentioned that Paul Heyman was a big influence. There you go.
Yes, he also spoke highly of Vince McMahon and our boy Bruce Pritchard. And there was another person he spoke highly of, as like in terms of creative. I don't recall who it was. I don't want to say it was Kevin Dunn, but
Why would
I
anyone praise Kevin Dunn?
there was someone who did praise Kevin Dunn, actually. Yeah, it was Tom Phillips, who also got released last week.
But yeah, man, the way he said that he was pitching a lot of stuff in terms of character. So there you go.
Yes,
He has a very good mind, in telling stories and having character development.
yes, for sure.
But yeah, man, this guy is gonna kill the wrestling world, when that 90 days expires.
Another thing I want to point out is, there were reports that Zelina Vega was also coming back to WWE. So they were trying to film some stuff on in the PC. And given that this happened, which Alistair also stated that it came out of left field because even he didn't expect this to happen, which is very sad if you think about it.
But yeah, man, I think that rumor instantly died when Alistair Black got released.
Yes. So let's see what this thing is with him and Zelina. I don't really see Zelina, like we had mentioned once on this podcast that she was signed to a video game franchise. And Black, obviously, like we mentioned, there is zero worry about him. He's just going to rule wherever he goes.
Like I said, man, Tommy End is gonna kill the wrestling world when that 90 days expires.
For sure, man. Like I'm excited for him. 100%.
And the other name was Lana. So I said this once her husband got released last year. It was a done deal for her. Like she was gonna leave the company in some way or some fashion.
But yeah, like we didn't expect it to be, after so long that she was being put through tables. And did she did show a considerable amount of improvement in the ring. So in a way that was good. Like she was trained by Natalia in the ring. So
So
that's why.
she tried really good in the ring, but
For sure.
before that, we had the whole Rusev Lashley, storyline that
The Cup storyline.
yeah, that they did try to have create some buzz, but at the end of the day, it really didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it benefited no one. If only you could say maybe it was for Lashley because then he found MVP and the rest, as they say, is history. But for Lana, even for her, if there is any avenue after WWE, it's obviously going to be with her husband as a manager. I don't see her being a wrestler. But even if she doesn't wrestle again, like it's fine with me because I see her more into those influencer types, which she already is.
She's a big influencer.
Oh man, 100%. Like with the her attachment to WWE and the stuff that she's done, she was also in like few TV shows and movies and junior roles, so maybe she could pick that up. But
But
she can handle herself on her own, so that's good.
in in terms of her WWE career, the Rusev Lana pairing, during the early days of the when Rusev came to the main roster, that was really great.
Oh, she was also considered as one of the best talkers at that time. And then, slowly when they put her into the Dolph Ziggler feud and later on, then she fell off in terms of relevancy. But, whenever Rusev was doing great, she was also with him. And my only downer, when I didn't really have much interest in her was obviously during the whole Lashley feud. At that time, even I wasn't watching regularly, but I would say, the whole Aiden English storyline. You remember that? The Milwaukee thing.
Yeah, that had some scope, man.
Do you think so?
Yeah, that was
Like,
kind of intriguing. Like it was exactly the time when Rusev Day was hot. They could have done something with that.
yeah. At that time, I don't think Lana was with, like, before that, when Rusev Day was hot. At that time, he was only paired with Aiden English. And another person, like at that time, leading into the whole Milwaukee story, I feel Aiden English was someone they could have done a lot with. And he did seem like, and all of them have admitted that Rusev Day wasn't supposed to be treated the way it should have because he was like the biggest merch mover and he was like over as hell. Yet they were portrayed in a very negative light at that time because he was foreign. He was a foreigner.
But
Which is
WWE
sad.
wanted to kill it because it was not their idea. So they planned stuff in such a manner that slowly even Rusev Day died.
Yeah, and it worked to an extent because I think around Extreme Rules 2018 when Rusev was facing AJ Styles, and Rusev day was still over, but he was still being portrayed as a heel. So they, what do you call, they shut it down, and like, you knew that he was going to lose, and the interest died down. But after that, they turned him face with Lana in a feud with Andrade and Zelina for SummerSlam, and
The,
like,
there
when
are
they should have,
yeah, there are a lot of
yeah,
possibilities. Like the Aiden English Rusev pairing, they could have put the tag titles on him, or there was an obvious choice. You remember WrestleMania 34? Rusev was the over guy in that entire
yeah,
weekend. They should have
yes,
put the
like,
US title on him on WrestleMania.
yes, and they ended up going with Jinder.
Jinder. But anyways, man,
That,
Lana. Let's talk. We were speaking about Lana. They could, she could join, Miro, and they could do that angle over again. The pairing. And other than that, if she doesn't want to wrestle, I think she will wrestle because in she has, shown us that she really likes this stuff. She actually likes wrestling. She could do
mm,
some stuff with Impact, or if she wants to be manager again, go with Miro in AEW. Or you, other than that, you have the influencer and stuff. She's gonna be fine.
yeah, she's going to be totally fine for sure.
The other name that was, I think, everyone spoke highly of. I'm talking about Ruby Riot. The only thing I want to say about her is she's underrated.
Absolutely. She is also another person I see doing very well outside of WWE. Like I mentioned earlier, like, Tony Khan must be keeping his checkbook ready for each and every talent that was released. And I feel this was like the best bunch of talent that was released, because anyone would take them and do wonders with. Obviously there was Braun. Even though he did seem like a WWE company guy, he is a big name at the end of the day, and he has like tiny bit of mainstream appeal that any promotion would love to have on their radar. But speaking of Ruby Riot, she was very much of a missed opportunity, man. They could have done so much with her, and she was someone who's experienced on the indie circuit. She was a big name in a way before signing for WWE. Her name was Heidi Lovelace, if I'm saying it correct. And like, she was a mainstay on these women independent companies like Shimmer, and there was another. She was in Chikara as well at that time, and she was doing very well for herself. And you remember the time when she debuted on NXT? She was part of this feud with Sanity, and she teamed up with Ty Dillinger and Nove Jose, and there was another person.
Cassius
I
Ono.
think, yeah, Cassius Ono was like the surprise who showed up as a replacement for Nove Jose. I think it was Roderick Strong. My memory isn't very clear at this point, but that was like a hot start, and you could say they could have put the NXT Women's Championship on her after Asuka, but that also simmered over time, and then she joined Riot Squad as a heel, trying to create like chaos with Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan. So that pairing really improved the other two people, but like you said, you could have done so much with Ruby Riot apart from that. And do you remember the time she got jobbed out to Ronda Rousey in like seconds on Elimination Chamber 2019?
Yeah, they did give her a title shot, which really
Yeah,
didn't mean anything.
yeah, she had like a couple title shots, if my memory serves me right. Like, there was one with Charlotte at the Fastlane 2018. Then Asuka announced that she wanted to challenge her. That was one, and there was this Elimination Chamber. She was used as a filler to boost another storyline, which does so much injustice to her talent. And she would be a great asset on, obviously, AEW. Their women's division is also slowly on the rise, and obviously there's Impact, who have like a very strong women's division. So wherever she goes, she's going to be just fine. And with the WWE name value she's going to carry, she's just going to further excel in her career.
And by the way, the Riot Squad was really a good trios.
Yes, like initially at the start, you've seen Ruby and Liv as baby faces throughout on NXT. It was somewhat different, but slowly over time they improved tremendously, and it worked. But now it leaves a bit of sour taste, obviously, because even Sarah Logan was released when she was pregnant. Was that like she got released and got pregnant? I don't remember, but even she was being regularly featured on Raw, and then she got released. That was also a bit sad. But now it's only Liv Morgan who is remaining, and we've been waiting for her breakout moment for like 3-4 years now. So
And they could have put the tag titles on them anytime in that period.
absolutely. And now that you've mentioned about the tag titles, there are only two active teams that are there. One's Natalia and Tamina, and the other is Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. Terrible
Mm,
state of affairs.
no use of the tag titles, man. Just burn them. Just burn them.
Yes. Nick Khan must be thinking like, yeah, this is fucking useless, and just accept.
Like we won't even care at that point.
We haven't. The only time it was interesting was leading into WrestleMania. They had teams who would vie and could build the women's division further, but obviously WWE isn't very good with tag teams.
And speaking about this year's WrestleMania, the actual plan was to put the titles on the Riot Squad, right?
Was it?
Yeah, the report was that they were going to put the titles on, Liv and Ruby Riot, because to get that babyface reaction. But like everything else,
It
plans
would have
got
been.
changed.
It would have been so much better if they had done that.
But yeah, man, Heidi Lovelace, is gonna be a big asset to any promotion.
But I read this Ruby's note, and she had mentioned that Heidi Lovelace was something that was given to her, and Ruby Riot was taken away from her. Then she had mentioned that she isn't sure what she will be called later on, and like she will keep the fans guessing. And on that Instagram post, even The Rock showed his support for Ruby Riot, which was kind of sweet.
I don't know. I have a weird theory. Just because The Rock responded to us, they may bring her back.
I don't. Yeah, it kind of worked with Selena if the rumors were to be believed, because Rock was like a strong supporter of Selena Vega because she worked in his movie, and he has also regularly endorsed Ricochet. But you know the story of Ricochet, so it kind of quashes your theory in a way.
And by the way, the one thing I forgot about the Braun Strowman, like I said, they are releasing big uh, guys that are making big money but aren't really doing anything. So at this point, anybody can be released. I won't be
Oh,
surprised by January 2022. Seth Rollins is released just like that.
imagine if that happens.
And
There is like a strong possibility after if they could release Brown, they could release anyone.
let's see, man. Let's get to who else we had. Buddy Murphy. Yet you can put him in that Alistair Black category. Really great worker. I think he really didn't get an opportunity to present himself as a character. There was some hope, when he was paired with Seth Rollins, but that really didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and another person who Paul Heyman was a strong supporter of while he was writing, and he was also given an undefeated streak, if I am not mistaken. Like him and Alistair Black, they both were given respective undefeated streak, and then when they faced each other, it felt huge, and they both of them tore the house down whenever they wrestled. But beyond that, he did well with Seth Rollins, and obviously, like Buddy Murphy's talent was well recognized. Even tracing it back to the cruiserweight, his cruiserweight run, he was that really showed what Buddy Murphy could do on like a slightly bigger stage. because obviously he was on like shows in Australia. He was doing shows on, like, he was regularly on pre-show shows, and just to keep the crowd hot, they used to put them as the opening act, and he always tore the house down, whoever he was paired with. Like his feud with Mustafa Ali in 2018, that was like peak 205 life for me. That was like the best time the brand ever had by itself. And then it further boosted Buddy Murphy's career, leading into his run on SmackDown during the whole Who Attacked Roman Reigns storyline, and later on Raw, and then as a pairing with Seth Rollins. And from that time, he was like someone who was regularly on the upper mid card, and you could see him winning the Intercontinental or United States Championship. It was only a matter of time before they could have done it. But since the whole Seth Rollins Mysterio feud, since like ever since it died down, he just disappeared quickly, which was very sad. And you could have done so much more with him, but now that he's gone, it is sad, obviously. But he's also someone who would be fine by himself. He could, any promotion would love to have him, but I feel he would be an asset, or let's say he would do very well in Mexico, like with his style. He would do well in like AAA or CMLL. And yeah, that's about it, I'd say.
Who at this point will go to Mexico just to make? What kind of money will you make
Pesos.
on Mexico right now?
Like, obviously, like Mexico, they have tie-ins with other promotions, so he would be all around. So in a way, Mexico is not that big of a concern. But his style, his wrestling style is very much mirrored to one Kenny Omega. So you could say like he is Kenny Beta in a way, just because Kenny Omega. But interestingly, sky's the limit for Buddy Murphy and Aleister Black, and wherever they go, they're just going to be very well on their own. And obviously he has like friendship with Andrade. Both of them do. So with Andrade's name really high up in stock after his recent appearance,
That
they're going to do well.
so the only name left is Santana Garrett, right?
Yes.
So I think I don't know. I don't even remember when she got signed. She was a good hand, you could say. She was a good enhancement talent. Other than that,
Unfortunately,
yeah,
unfortunately.
they could have used her a bit more, but that was a ceiling, I guess. Even in NXT.
Yeah, I remember like while I was going through these releases and I was checking out what everyone else around had to say. There was this one thing said by Brian Zane on Wrestling with Regrets. Big shout out. He had said that she was a bit ahead of her time, because while WWE was trying to find its mark as a women centric brand, Santana, she was killing it in Shimmer and Women's of Wrestling and any other promotion. But once she got, even she was even in Impact for a while. Her name was Brittany, and she was paired with Samuel Shaw, the current Dexter Loomis at that time. And
Was she?
yeah, she was like, this is I think around 2013, 2014 time, when Impact had really fallen off a cliff. And then she was I think she appeared on, or no, she wasn't uh she was in Ring of Honor, maybe, I'm not sure.
I think
But
she has been on the indie scene for these many years then.
yeah, she has been like Brian had mentioned, she was like a mainstay on the independent circuit, and she was killing it as like one of the premier names in the women's wrestling. And then she got signed in WWE. I think she got signed in 2018 or 2019, one of the 2 years. Maybe she got signed with Chelsea Green in 2018, or maybe after that. I don't exactly remember, but it was sad that she was used very little. either on NXT. And there were reports that she was being called up to the main roster with
Vanessa Ball
uh, Ch- with Vanessa Bond and Chelsea Green, and unfortunately, all of them,
are
three of
gone
them
now.
are not with the three of them are not with the company anymore. So that's very sad. But again, she would be. I feel she would be kind of like Serena Deeb on AEW. Like she's not like you wouldn't expect her because even though she's like I don't want to say a legend in her own right. Like she is a big name by herself outside of WWE, Santana Garrett, and she's just when she appears, be it Impact or AEW, you wouldn't really expect, but they would silently kill it. I would say like the kind of impact Serena Deeb has had, she's just going to do the same thing. This is what I predict for her.
But yeah, man, those are the releases. Like I said, you could say budget cut and all, but they are trying to make more profit. And that the one reason could be, everyone was speculating after this set of releases that WWE is, getting ready to, sell to some big company like Disney or
Disney or NBC, they are like heavily rumored to buy the company from Vince McMahon. Imagine if it happens. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting, and only time would tell how would they function both on a business side and on the creative side. So it's even though like despite that, it's still interesting times in WWE. So whoever with the bros or roster they had was like huge in 2019 and 2020. So you are only waiting to see who gets released next and how will they do well outside of WWE. One name that I feel who should get, I don't know, and it's terrible for me to say because obviously you shouldn't celebrate or be happy that someone's job is gone. It's a terrible thing to do. But the one person I hope gets like I hope leaves WWE and does well elsewhere is obviously Chad Gable, because he has so much potential to be a star on his own, and I don't think he's going to get that in WWE.
I don't know what the situation is going to be in terms of talents. At this point, anybody can get released, and who are they going to use on in these shows, man?
Like they have so much, they have so many talents on their payroll, so they could might as well get some from NXT, because NXT right now is also kind of over bloated.
You mentioned NXT, so there was yet another report after this set of releases that they have specially, gone into the PC recruiting guys that can that can be a big value to the main roster.
Yeah, it's high time. Like there are so many talents who have been spinning the wheels in NXT. So obviously there's Finn Balor who has like a bit of main roster experience. So even he's been like after his loss to Karrion Cross as for the title, he's disappeared a little, and you hadn't really heard much from him. Even he wasn't mentioned on the show either this past episode. So you could see him, and he has stated that he has unfinished business on either Raw or SmackDown. So you could see him popping up. One person I hope gets a main roster call up is obviously Adam Cole, because he's done literally everything in NXT, and there's also Johnny Gargano who's been NXT for like longer than I remember. I think it's been 5 years now
He's a NXT
since when.
lifer, you could say.
Yeah, he is. Ciampa is NXT lifer in a way. He is stated that he wants to remain in NXT because of his injury troubles, and he feels that he's not going to get used well on the main roster. Fair play to that. But there are a lot of talents they could, take on, who could move from NXT to the main roster, and might as well just do that for now.
I think Adam Cole just hid somewhere when these recruitment guys came.
And he just showed up when it was safe for him to, and now he's in like a fatal 5-way match for the NXT championship.
But yeah, man, these releases have really left a big void now.
They're going to be fine. Like WWE, they are making record profits like they did last year, and they will continue to do so. It's WWE, so
But let's quickly get into the Let's get into the raw review, which is not fine because this show sucks. What
This
did we
show
have
sucks
on Monday Night
balls.
Raw this?
So the show started with this angle between Nikki Cross, like it was okay. I gave like a spoiler, but so it started off with Miz TV. So Miz was shitting on Meltzer before his appearance. He's saying he's not like he's a must see talent, so he'll be on show every week. And then when we get to Raw, when the Miz TV starts, then he mentions, "Oh, I got injured." That was like an unnecessary dump on him. Poor Meltzer. But it starts off with Miss TV, and the guest is Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair in the wake of building them up for the Hell in a Cell match. And both Rhea and Charlotte shit on each other, saying like Charlotte's going to win the championship, Rhea's going to face Nightmares, and then she randomly tells Nikki Cross's name because it seems like last week I didn't watch the show last week, so uh, she said that you couldn't beat Nikki Cross. What chances you are going to beat me? Blah blah blah. And then Nikki Cross, like the Beetlejuice that she is, pops up on on the show and says that she tells Charlotte that she can beat her in like she can't beat her in 2 minutes. Blah blah blah. And that exactly is what happens. That Charlotte Flair fails to beat Nikki Cross in 2 minutes, so therefore Nikki Cross wins. And
So are
this
we
like
are we getting into a situation that they add Nikki Cross into the title match now?
not now. They'll do the same way like they did with Kofi, which we'll get into. So it's very head scratching, but whenever you put Nikki Cross in such roles, she always kills it. So why don't they use her all that much? I can't understand.
And I don't know, man, if Rhea somehow makes past Charlotte after Hell in a Cell, then there is a potential matchup there.
There is a like they she has quite a few contenders waiting for her. There's Asuka, but they're not. I think is she injured again? Like we had mentioned before Mania, because there were reports that she was injured, but now then she goes on to face Charlotte and Rhea, and then she's disappeared from TV as well. So maybe there is something
Injury could be one of the reason, but other than that, I think they don't want to put her in the title picture again.
sad.
Like if you even put her in the title picture right now, it won't make any big of a difference.
Yes, like she's been in and out, and like she's been there even though like since the pandemic started, she's been the MVP on the Raw according to me. Like she's consistently entertaining and does put up killer matches one after the other.
But yeah, man, uh, let's see. I don't see Rhea retaining this time around.
Me neither.
I think
And
her time has
like
come.
yeah, and like main roster, like in the beginning, it's always sink or swim. So she's been like she has she her reign has been a bit underwhelming, but you can't really blame her for that. If you want to blame the creative for not doing much with her.
What else did we have?
So from there we go to like this is something that I've actually turned a corner on. Initially I was like, what the fuck? But now I feel like, it's pretty entertaining on Raw. It's like one of the few things worth watching. So we have a match between Xavier Woods versus Randy Orton. So I think last week we had Riddle versus Xavier, and this time we had Orton versus Xavier. So this match was great. Like obviously these two talent are, I mean, it's Randy Orton, so he's like one of the goats, and Xavier Woods always consistently shows how great of a singles performer he is. So this match was great, and the big takeaway from this match was Randy Orton. Like last week Riddle won versus Xavier using the RKO. Now this time Orton wins versus Xavier using the bro Derek, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So Riddle was literally marking out on the ring side, and it has, like I mentioned initially, had my doubts, and I was like, why Riddle? But now I see what they're trying to do, and initially now it's working for me. It's getting interesting, and like one of the few good things worth watching on the show,
Yeah,
on
this
3 hour piece show.
originally this love hate relation tag teams actually turn out to be really good.
I mean, it happens more often than not, but the my main concern was it was Riddle. But it's getting there now, so slowly and steadily they are going to do well with it, so it's fine by me.
And why do I feel the end goal would be not Randy Orton turning on Riddle, but Riddle turning on Randy Orton?
I wouldn't be against that. Like Riddle as a heel, I haven't really seen him do heel stuff, to be honest. Like even on the independent circuit, he was always like this stoner guy who has no sense of understanding what's happening in, but he still kicks ass. So
I think a
yeah,
heel
that's
gimmick could work.
he could. It very well could. But how do they get to that? Obviously remains to be seen. And I have zero hopes from WWE Creative. So I'll just wait and watch what do they do.
So what else do we have?
So after that, we had Reginald versus Shayna Baszler.
Oh my!
Oh my god.
Did they do anything
The,
different with Shayna?
yes, but not for the better. So Reginald defeats Shayna Baszler. Like what the fuck? She is like this big badass woman from MMA who is known to break limbs and kill careers. Loses to this no good sack of shit, Reginald.
Even breaking
Why?
her up with Naya is not even helping her.
Unfortunately, and this is something that I wanted for so long, because Shayna Baszler is someone they could do very well with, and she was, looking back from her time at WrestleMania last year with Becky Lynch, and before that the Elimination Chamber match. From there to now, oh, that's terrible. At like she got distracted by fucking fireworks of Alexa Bliss.
Again.
Ah, yeah, Alexa Shango doing her black magic. Unfortunately,
And by the way, did we get any clear, indication who Alexa is targeting?
she's targeting Shayna. So there you go.
So, do you mean to tell me that Shayna is gonna job to Alexa now?
I hope not.
Wow.
It is going to happen. It is going to happen because Alexa is like a big name. Obviously, they want to capitalize on that, and I don't want to say it's a new gimmick for Alexa, but as on her own, it's still fresh and it's still new. So they would only want to build that character up and then slowly get her to the women's championship scene, which really leaves a sour taste in my mouth, because you had so many of these talents like Rhea, Asuka, you have Charlotte, maybe Nikki, maybe even Becky Lynch if once she returns. It's only going to get terrible.
Speaking about terrible, did we get any Eva Marie segment on this show?
We did not, strangely.
Wow, they given a one break, week 1 week break for Eva Marie,
I guess.
or you don't get surprised if she gets released next week, just like they did with Alistair.
Oh wait, there was shit. I am sorry. There was, and it was nothing different. Unfortunately, I couldn't remember. I apologize for that. But it was nothing different from her weekly shit. So I could get. It's gotten to a point like it's like a bit of law of diminishing returns type. The more you do it, the less interest I have. And I was someone who was looking forward to Eva Marie like in the beginning, like how will they use her, and then now it's only like either they could Emelina her out, or they could do something successful, maybe even Rhea her, like just strap a rocket on her and take the women's division, take the women's championship, which is still fearsome. So
Like
I
she is
guess
definitely coming to Russell. She is no way managing someone.
she's definitely going to wrestle, and she's definitely going to win the Raw Women's Championship. You can write that on a piece of paper and say it's not a good sign, unfortunately.
So what else did we have on the show?
So we had there was a match that it was a match. Obviously, it was Mason T Bar. They are building them up as a strong tag team. So they took on the Lucha House Party, and
So who
Mason
won?
T Bar win. Mason T Bar.
And what's the situation before you get to this? What's the situation with the other tag team, Elias and Jackson Riker? I think they got broke up this week.
They broke up. So there was another match. AJ and Omos were facing Elias and Jackson Riker. So it was for the Raw Tag Team Championship, which Elias, leaves Jackson Riker for high and dry, and AJ and Omos pick up the victory. Now I'm not sure who's the heel and face in this story. Obviously, you can't make Jackson Riker the face, can you?
He is healed for life now.
He's heel for life, and if there's anyone who could be a face, I mean, who could do well as a face, and we've seen it in bits and pieces, it's Elias, because he doesn't have to change anything about his character. But even then,
You can put Elias in
why?
the same boat with Braun Strowman. Didn't get the big push when he deserved.
Yeah, but Elias isn't someone who isn't meant to, like, win the world championship. You could say maybe for the US championship he's like a strong contender for that, because US championship, despite being like the wrestler championship, it's US's fares more on the character side, because intercontinental is always associated with the wrestler. So you could see Elias be a good contender for the US championship, maybe even be a future US champion, a good US champion, but you don't know how this is going to be. But I am not, I wasn't a fan of this pairing. I don't see Jackson Riker benefiting as a face. If they do that, which obviously I'll dread. And yeah.
I
Oh,
think
and
it's
I
time
forgot to
now.
mention,
I
yeah,
think it's time we say Jackson Riker.
you're forgotten. I hope
Forgotten.
so.
But yeah, man,
Forgotten
like we were saying,
always. Yes, I forgot to mention that we have a new commentary team this time. So, in another name in terms of releases was Adnan Work.
oh,
Adnan Work.
I'm just messing with you, man. Yeah, the
Of course, I
commentator
know
that
that.
really didn't get over.
Yes, he was there for like 2 months, was he? Yeah, it was for 2 months, and he got shit canned. And he mentioned that it was
He
like
was
he was
not there.
finding it
I
hard.
think he was just there for a couple of weeks.
He joined after WrestleMania, and he only got released now, so almost 2 months you could say, which is still sad. But according to him, it was like he was finding it difficult managing the his work outside of WWE and his family. So it was understandable, but again, it was a bit harsh, especially on that and on Tom Phillips, who was also released last week. That was, I felt it was a bit unfair, and he's also someone who's going to do well wherever he goes. But I don't really see him picking up wrestling after his WWE release.
You're talking about Tom Phillips or Adnan Work?
I'm talking about Tom Phillips now, but Adnan Work is obviously going to go back to ESPN, even though he was released in a very from ESPN, he was fired under very different circumstances.
Did you hear about Adnan Work getting signed by Cam Soda?
What?
Do you know what Cam Soda is?
I don't.
It is some sports plus adult site, you could say.
Wow.
So I think this is better than Monday Night Raw.
Oh, 100%. Anything's better than Monday Night Raw. So
But
fair play to Adnan Work.
what do you think about this new commentator? I didn't really get to hear him.
Yeah, Jimmy Smith. He's pretty okay. Like his first episode was fine. You could say it was passable. And he's also someone with a sports background, particularly more into the combat zone, because I think he was commentating for Bellator.
And he also did something for NXT, I guess, during WrestleMania weekend. That's the only time I heard about it.
I didn't know about this.
as a kickoff
They
analyst.
there is someone else who's doing the kickoff stuff for NXT, and he has like a Persian name.
Mm, yeah, I think he was also one of those guys. But what do you think about it? Do you give him a month to improve, or will it be yet another Adnan work?
I will give him a month, but there's like there are better signs of him to stick than Adhan work, because even Seamus shat on him last week. He's like, on this Adnan work, fella, I don't even know what your name is. And next thing you know, he's gone from the company, which is sad.
The only memorable call of Adnan Work's small tenure is the time Braun Strowman was, doing this his usual stick,
Yeah.
and he said something like, "We need a bigger boat."
Yeah. Oh yes, I remember that. That was so bad. And he was also victim of the constant oohs and the ahs, like what we used to shout at Rene Young for as a
That is
commentator. Which
straight from Michael Cole's coaching class.
yes. Oh my! Could it
And
be?
oh, but what else do we have on this show, man? Other than the tag team stuff.
Yes. So Cedric and Shelton also have a match again.
Again,
Uh, yes, and Cedric wins like in quick fashion. So that's something that happened. But I don't know where is this leading to, but it is something. And speaking of another bunch of jobbers, unfortunately, there is Mustafa Ali and Mansoor.
so
So
they
there are
did kind of tease something there, right?
yes. So Ali is like, be careful who you trust, and Mansoor is like, why should why should I listen to you? And then Ali is like, you don't get it. So they are building towards something, but uh, this is something I'm looking forward to, because I mean, you could just use the Spider-Man meme, right? Like when they look at each other, Spider-Man meme. So this can be used so well here, because both of them look kind of alike. And this is a better use of Mansoor than anything you could do, apart from having him job out to Sheamus in his first week and using him on main event from there. And speaking of main event, Mustafa Ali defeated Jeff Hardy this week.
And that was really a good match, when you were saying.
Oh, it was like this match I happened to see like in bits and pieces. Obviously, there's no other way to watch main event, but
Hulu.
it Hulu. Apart from that, like I don't think they upload on the network, do they?
I don't think so.
They used to, I believe.
But who cares, man? Who watches main event?
Who watches main event?
But
That's
yeah,
true.
why are we having these matches on main event? When you could easily put this on a 3-hour show.
Yes, and given the recent releases, there is a void that you could fill with these main event matches.
I don't know, man. I don't know who's gonna get released next. And at this point, I don't even care.
Hopefully, it's Bruce Pritchard.
He's the one that should be released first. But
I
that won't
hope
be
so
happening.
too.
That won't be
Yeah,
happening.
he is Vince's chamcha man.
But I think we should get to the WWE title picture. I think we have Drew McIntyre, Kofi Kingston for the main event, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Before that, let me just finish a few things. Like it's just small. So there was Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. They defeated Naomi and Lana.
Which was
So that
fitting.
was it, which is fitting, unfortunately. And apart from that, there was something else interesting. So Sheamus challenges Ricochet, and
Again,
he yes, this is also like a control C and control V situation. So Ricochet defeats Sheamus after a distraction from Humberto Carrillo, and Sheamus says, "I was distracted, so I'm gonna beat your ass, Humberto," and he loses to Humberto after Ricochet distracts him. So it's like a palindrome from here also and from here also. It's completing the same thing,
like
and so
even giving the US title to Sheamus was not good enough. I think he was going to have a good reign, but doesn't look like it.
Yeah, and he was someone who was he was entertaining so much, like before his US title reign, like his feud with McIntyre and whatever he was doing. It was he was a babyface as well, right? During the start of his run on Raw.
When he was feuding with McIntyre.
Before that,
No, I don't think so. When he came back, when he got rid of that spike mohawk and came back to the OG Sheamus hairstyle,
that
he
was
was,
on SmackDown. Yeah,
yeah,
he
I
was a
was
heel
saying,
then.
since then he has been a heel, pure heel.
Yes, but since moving to Raw, because that was on SmackDown.
Hi, briefly when he was buddy with Drew McIntyre, then you could say he was babyface.
Yeah, and even that didn't last long, man. WWE has like a stigma of booking a good babyface. Except the ones that we are getting to, I don't see anyone who they have booked well as a babyface, let alone as a world champion.
You could say Edge, Daniel Bryan, but they are just originals.
Yes, but in recent memory, I think like Daniel Bryan had to turn heel to become an entertaining character, entertaining world champion, which is sad. But Kofi, like, okay, so we'll get into the main event picture now. So Kofi and Drew have the match. Winner goes on to face Bobby Lashley at Hell in a Cell. So this was like a very solid match as expected, because obviously these two have like very natural chemistry dating back to their mid card days, like 10 years ago. So this was a very solid match, but Drew McIntyre wins this, and we might be getting to something else over here.
Like what?
So I'm not sure if Drew and Bobby are facing each other inside a Hell in a Cell match, but whichever way it is, there is like a strong possibility of something else happening, man. It's
Do you
so
mean Brock Lesnar?
yes. So like very recently on WWE.com, Brock Lesnar's profile was in the alumni section. They moved it back to Monday Night Raw section.
Uh-oh.
So whichever way this feud goes, you could see Brock Lesnar returning in some form, either as part of this Hell in a Cell match, beating the shit out of both of these guys, or you could say after this is Money in the Bank. So just to return there, give Money in the Bank like the big name feel, because it is a big name at this point, I would say. So you could have him return there and kick Bobby's ass to build to their eventual SummerSlam match. A lot of interesting possibilities with what they end up, how they integrate Brock Lesnar into their programming. But that's like building some intrigue. And obviously, even Kofi Kingston mentioned like week or two ago that people are tired of seeing Drew McIntyre in the main event.
He's throwing facts.
He's throwing facts, but I kind of hate it when WWE are a bit self-aware about it. Like you remember when they blamed Baron Corbin for their ratings dump, and they introduced, and then the McMahons came in and said, "We are going to give you what you want, and we are supposed to be the authority."
Still waiting for it.
Still waiting for it. Absolutely, it's terrible, man. But
And that
this
same
match,
sta- in that same breath, they also said you won't be getting any rematches. 3 years from now,
still waiting.
but I
Maybe we
don't.
should put that on a T-shirt.
But I didn't get, if you are given to give yet another shot to McIntyre, then why did you have Kofi Kingston pin your champion Lashley?
Just to
Will
give
this,
him like
if this isn't leading to anything else, then this was meaningless.
it was complete waste of time.
Like, we are just, I think at this point, we are just waiting for Brock to return, right?
We are, and it's only a matter of time that he comes back and kicks some ass, which is going to be a huge boost for Monday Night Raw, given how shit it has been for ever since the previous draft, I'd say, because things were still interesting on Raw
I
until
think
last
the
week.
only hope at this point is to bring back my boy Keith Lee.
We are still waiting for him, and if his Twitter is anything to go by, he said that he has some secrets that he wants to share, but now is not the time for him to do that, because like since January he's facing a lot of hardships personally, if his tweets are to be believed. So he has to only hoping, everything is fine with him, and he can take, if it's something personal, then he can take as much time as he wants to return.
That was raw, man. I really want to move on from this shit.
Me too, man. I
But
really like. I always question myself, why do I even watch this? But then I wouldn't be on the podcast. So
we won't even have this podcast.
yes,
But yeah, man. Did you hear about many in the community, the content creators I'm saying, just boycotting watching Raw or maybe covering Raw?
it had like I've known a few who had stopped entirely from last year, since the whole like the first batch of releases during the whole Black Wednesday thing last year. So they haven't covered Raw since then, and they're busy on Twitch for streaming. So fair play, I would say.
At least that's some signs that shows how terrible Raw is.
It has been for so long, and
Like these are content creators. Like the community in whole should just boycott watching Raw.
yes, it's high time people do it. Like people actually do it. Like we say, like I'm going to cancel network subscription, and then they end up paying again.
Like them watching would be a huge support for Monday Night Raw ratings.
It's like even the ratings have tanked down like considerably. Like at a time last year or earlier this year, during in the build up to WrestleMania, they were drawing around 2 million or under just under 2 million. Now it's fallen to 1.4, and even that's fucking terrible.
Anyways, man, Raw is just bad, you could say.
It's awful. It's worse than bad. It's downright dog shit.
But let's get into the other stuff, man. Let's get into SmackDown. But before SmackDown, let's cover some old news which came in last week. So this week was the whole week was covered with the releases. But last week, people were losing their mind when they heard New Japan Pro Wrestling could be the exclusive partner to WWE.
Bullshit.
After
That's what I
seeing,
felt.
yeah, man, but yeah, at this point, it does really feel like a bullshit statement or a false rumor. Like, but let's talk about let's fantasy book and stuff. If New Japan wants to work with, sorry, WWE wants to work with New Japan, that's the correct statement. It's really gonna be a positive, a big boost for New Japan.
For sure. Like New Japan is, they are still trying to find their footing into the US market. And it's been like what, 4 years now since they actually attempted to do that. Since the
Actually,
time they
actually, it was after the whole MSG show happened, right? Then they got the boost. Yes, let's finally break out into the US market. But here comes 2020. Everything, every plans got cancelled, postponed.
yeah, because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I remember dating back to 2017 when they actually introduced the New Japan US Championship, and they had like, I don't believe it was their first ever show in US. Like they did a show in Long Beach, California, and the main event of that was Okada versus Cody Rhodes.
Which is better
That
than Cody versus Ogogo.
1000%, dude. So that's when they introduced like they were going to expand into the US market. So this championship was like a clear indication. And the first person they chose to, represent that championship was like a very good call in Kenny Omega. and then slowly it goes to Jay White, fuck, Jay White, then Juice Robinson, and then Cody. Cody was like a very good person who could have helped them expand, but he wasn't, like, he was busy with his All In, his ROH stuff, his NWA stuff. So that was something. But since AEW's formation, I believe that's when US said that they are going to create a brand. New Japan said that they are going to create the brand out of the US. So it was New Japan, NJPW of America, right?
You could say it's
You-
a brand. You could call it a brand.
Yeah, it is a brand, but I was just going after the nomenclature, how it's called. And safe to say, it has. I don't want to say it's not working, but there are obvious hiccups because of the pandemic, you could say. Like, it has affected them majorly. And like, the best chance after all these years was when they put the championship on a red hot John Moxley in his very first match out of after his WWE release and his AEW appearance. So that also worked in a way because it got people interested. And their the following G1 of 2019, it was like one of the highest drawing ones in US. So they did great numbers over there. And after that, obviously, the pandemic happened and it derailed so many plans, but still it was like still topsy turvy, what were they going to do.
Yeah,
But now, yeah.
like I said, the partnership, the if the WWE partnership ever happens, it could really benefit New Japan a lot, give their product a little boost. Like the whole pandemic stuff happened and their value just went down. Like nobody
The
really
US.
started caring about them. Instead of the hardcores, the casual New Japan fans just left.
Yes. Like, ever, even when you could say, like, even when the Elite left, there was still like some interest in New Japan. And after Kenny's departure, they were trying to make Osprey the new Gaijin star, which has also worked like in tremendous amount. Like, he was their IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, and unfortunately now he's fallen to a neck injury. So
But yeah, man. So this they said this partnership will allow talents to jump back and forth. And in general, how I'm wondering why now? Why does WWE want to partner with New Japan right now? Is it
yeah,
because of
when they are,
AEW?
that's exactly the reason why. They could have done it much earlier, but I don't know what was stopping them. And if the reports are to be believed, the only reason they actually considered it was because Daniel Bryan had been vocal about it. He wanted to be part of WWE, but he still wanted to wrestle around the world.
They are still saying that Daniel Bryan, they want this deal to finalize just to keep that guy happy.
Yes, but Daniel Bryan's going to eventually stay with WWE in some form, but it's not going to be at the expense of New Japan. So
And
in a way, always, it's just going to be like a news that was there. I don't see anything concrete, even when the news happened. And I feel that given it was only the Observer reporting which led to the infamous Tony Khan promo, I feel it was just a joke. The report was just a rumor that was leading to the Tony Khan promo. So there you go.
and
It was Tony with
when you
culture.
talk about talent exchanges, yeah, the lot of WWE guys could benefit going there, have wrestling some shows over there. But if you want to speak about New
Totally.
Japan talents coming over WWE, why would these guys work on the main roster? I think they would be
NXT.
better treated well in NXT, right?
Yes, it's the same situation as when we had mentioned that MLW wanted WWE want to partner with MLW, or it was the other way around. Like, either way, it's the same situation as that. And it's if there's anyone that they could use and help find, give them a TV exposure or vice versa, it's only going to be from NXT, and NXT possesses the type of talent that would excel in New Japan and vice versa, even for the main roster. But you don't really see people from main roster jumping back and forth.
Yeah, you don't you have NXT talent just struggling over in the main roster. Do you expect a Tanahashi Okada being treated well with Bruce and Vince in charge?
Hell no, dude. Okada would get like Vietnam flashbacks if he goes to the main roster, because it will remind him of the time when he was the Green Hornet character, Okato.
Like,
Fucking Vince Russo.
and speaking about that, if if something like that happens and these talents, your big talents get somewhat insulted or not well used properly, money is secondary. They're gonna blackball you for life.
For sure. Like Impact faced that. And that was because of how poorly Okada was treated.
Like New Japan's Booker Gedo still thinks Jeff Jarrett is behind this whole, even though Jeff
Fuck
Jarrett is
Jeff
not part of
Jarrett.
Impact.
Yeah. Like he's part of WWE now, and then that they're still like, you remember this joke where Gedo just screams, "Fuck Jeff Jarrett."
Yeah, that's the whole premises of it. Like he fucked up
Yes.
Okada and other talents.
Yeah,
TNA I'm
but
speaking about.
I don't think it was Jeff Jarrett who was responsible for that. It was fucking Vince Russo,
The ultimate bro.
the ultimate bro.
But yeah, man. Like overall, this as of now, how AEW is seeing things, the WWE New Japan partnership as of now is dead.
Dead in the water.
But
And it wasn't going to be, because WWE is always, if they want to work with someone, they want to absorb that. Like you see with the UK market, how they've completely killed the UK wrestling scene.
so they can't kill the Japanese wrestling market. So they decided,
Oh,
fuck it,
there's going
let's
to be
work with
a
New Japan.
yeah, there's going to be a riot if they absorb New Japan.
I think that's not possible.
Oh, for sure. And Japanese, like they are like, wrestling is embedded in their culture. So if you do that, or if you do that with Mexico, WWE is going to go down, man. If that happens, because even Mexico is very, like, the whole El Santo. He's like embedded in the Latino culture. And if WWE, imagine if they do that in Mexico, they're just going to get fucked.
But
Same way with New Japan.
yeah, like I said, don't worry, people. We are not getting Okada versus Reigns or Rollins versus Tanahashi. But overall, this type of partnership, only benefits for New Japan. Be it against WWE, be it against AEW or WWE, you could say.
Yeah, like it's only just to give New Japan some exposure, but with WWE's business practices, I don't really see it happening.
There you
I
go.
mean, benefiting WWE, that is.
Let's see, man. Let's move on. Let's quickly wrap this thing with SmackDown. SmackDown was also a May show this week.
Yeah, it's fallen off since Brian is gone, but it's like it's up there, it's going down, it's up, it's going down. But this week was particularly, I don't want to say it was bad, but like you could take anything over Monday Night Raw, but even the SmackDown was a little disappointing. But still, you would take it over Monday Night Raw anyway.
But so yeah, so this week we had two title matches. So they opened up with a SmackDown tag team title
Three, if you
match.
yes,
You could say technically three title
technically three.
matches. Yeah. So the first one was for the tag titles. So Mysterios versus the Usos. We also have Roman Reigns. Any situation like he's still not. I don't. You could say Jimmy Uso. He's still not acknowledging Roman Reigns as the tribal chief, as the head of the table. You got
As the
that
best of the best.
scenario, and on the other side he wants to have go back to being a uh, tag with his tag with Jey Uso again, that whole situation. So all things led to Mysterious, quote unquote, stealing the win here, but it was later revealed that it was a false pinfall, like the Jimmy's shoulder was up. So this led to yet another rematch at the end of the night, where the Mysterios was about to beat the Usos again. But here comes Roman Reigns beating both Dominic and Rey Mysterio, leading to a disqualification. So yeah, so like we said weeks ago, I think this thing with Roman and Jimmy Uso is leading to a Hell in a Cell match for the title.
It could happen. Even given that what we know about Rollins and Cesaro, that they are going to be a match on their own on the show. So it's definitely leading to Roman versus Jimmy to, like you had mentioned, to bridge the gap for between last year, like how Roman and Jay had their match, and it's going to be fine anyway because if Roman and Jay, and it's like it's Roman Reigns, like he has like that Midas touch on him now. Like even his gloves is gold. Like whatever he touches turns to gold. So this match, the first match for the tag title, it was a great match. Both of like for these two teams, and special shout out to Dominic Mysterio. Like since his debut, he's only improving like every week, which is great to see. Like he gets pro wrestling naturally.
Now, the other reason could be he now has extra pressure that he is in a big position.
Yes, as a champion, but it's working for him so far. So that's there. But having said that, this story arc this week felt a little flat for this week because there's Jay. He's always jumping back and forth between exciting Roman Reigns and also disappointing him. Like before the first match, Jay is cutting a promo. Jimmy is cutting a promo about like getting Roman hyped up that we are going to win. We're going to be the champions. And Roman is like, if you're doing it, you better win and live up to your promise. But then Roman, who was also understanding of how Jimmy and Jay got fucked over by the referee, and then booking the rematch, and then costing the Usos the match. It was like it was all over the place. But
Yeah, the only reason you could say he was mad is because that is disrespectful to his name or the quote unquote family,
yeah,
which
of
was the
the
story for this
Untouchables.
week.
Yes, it always is the story with Roman. Like I don't remember which match it was exactly between Roman and Jay when both the Wild Samoans had shown up. Was it
Hell in
Night
a
of
Cell.
Champions or yeah, it was Hell in a Cell with the whole flowers and shit. So it might happen that we might get to see Roman and Jimmy. It's like I had mentioned earlier, it's still weird to me to see one of the Usos in the world title picture, but if it's helping them succeed on their own, then I'm all for that. It certainly helped Jay Uso as a single star, and I would like to see him win the Intercontinental Championship from Apollo Crews at any point, or be it if it is Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn, whoever it may be. Just give the championship to Jimmy Uso before he permanently goes into a tag team with Jimmy.
And the only reason we are getting a Hell in a Cell in June is just because of this storyline, I guess.
Could very well be. And even like I was rewatching the main event between Roman and Cesaro yesterday, and they were just mentioning it's hot as hell and it's summertime. So
But yeah, man, I won't mind this match going because this storyline is, it's, you could say it's fine.
yeah, it's working. It's interesting in some form, and obviously is Roman Reigns. He's the main event. He is the main event. So whatever he does is always must see at this point. Ever since turning heel, he's consistently been the best performer in the company, let alone like Raw, SmackDown, or even NXT.
But let's get into this Bianca Belair promo we had. She actually is challenging Bailey this time. So I think this match was quote unquote made official for Hell in a Cell. So we had Bailey via satellite accepting this challenge. and she was, doing her usual lap that she has been doing for the couple of weeks. But this time it was amplified into multiplied by 100 when we see multiple Bailey faces on the Thunderdome screens, which was hilarious, by the way.
Oh, it was like they are having fun with this, especially Bailey. She's been like consistently one of the best performers on SmackDown since turning heel. So it's fun to see that. And this match, like if their backlash match is anything to go by, it's just going to be as good. And this kind of made sense for Bianca because she knows that she can beat Bailey after doing so at Backlash. So she's only going to beat her twice, and it remains to be seen like how do they fix Sasha Banks into this picture. I feel she's injured because she hasn't appeared at all since WrestleMania,
I think the other reason is they want to hold her back, and when the right time comes, they will put her back in the storyline.
and it's not going to like she's not going to miss a thing, and she's just going to fit as well. But yeah, I'm excited for this match again at Hell in a Cell, but it should be something different. So yeah. Are
Speaking
there any
about,
Hell in a Cell matches that are confirmed for the show?
I don't remember. I don't know what's happening with. As of now, none of the matches have been confirmed inside Hell in a Cell,
I feel it's going to be both of the World Championship matches.
which is a
Has
easy
to be.
choice.
Has to be.
But let's get into Liv Morgan versus Carmella. So yeah, this is Liv Morgan back to being a single star for obvious reasons. She was a small match. This match went short. Carmella got the win. Carmella is now claiming. Uh-oh. Yes, Carmella is now claiming that she is the beautiful woman in WWE, in the entire WWE. That's her stick for now. But yeah, man, what you any hopes for Liv Morgan as of this point?
There could be something, but now is not the time. It's only going to be after like 8 or 9 months, or even then she'll get released. Who knows? Because even now, the size of the women's division is like paper thin after Ruby Riot's release, and after Santana, Chelsea, and Vanessa Bond, who are also reportedly part of the roster.
Let's see, man. I think it's fair that we give her some time.
Yes, but Carmella, can you blame her for saying that?
Anyway, that's her opinion. She is really beautiful, but yeah, man. But other than that, what else did we have on this show? We had the Intercontinental title match, right, between Kevin
Ye-
Owens and Apollo Crews.
Yes. So Kevin Owens gets attacked by Baba Tunde. I'm going to call
Commander
him Baba Tunde.
Aziz.
I'm going to call him Baba Tunde. Okay, so Commander Aziz, he beats the brakes of Kevin Owens backstage, and Kevin Owens is injured heading into this match, which works obviously for Apollo Crews. And Apollo Crews wins, obviously. And after the match, Sami Zayn comes and attacks Kevin and says it's karma. So are you going to see a triple threat? Are we going to see a triple threat? Or could we see Biggie back in some form and make it a fatal four-way once again?
I don't know what they do with Biggie right now. I I think when he heard Alistair got released, I think he also in some fashion got fucked up.
Yeah, he must. I mean, obviously, he must be disappointed. This could have been his big break as a single star. And unfortunately, ever since, going solo, even from his Intercontinental Championship reign, it hasn't worked for me as a single star, Biggie.
I don't know how they do handle this Sami Zayn Kevin Owens situation again. I think this time they want to have the Intercontinental Championship involved, but we have to wait and see how they take the title of Apollo Crews.
Could be a triple threat match again, but I don't really see Apollo holding the championship after this.
I wouldn't mind because I wouldn't mind seeing yet another Owens versus Zayn match because every time they are in the ring, they really kill it, and it would
Of course,
really
that's
mean
natural chemistry
something.
both of them have.
Yeah, it would really mean something with the IC title picture involved.
Yes. But I feel Kevin Owens should be a regular main eventer. But if this is a way to propel him back into the main event scene, I'm all for that.
Nothing is moving forward until Roman drops the title. That's it.
For sure. And speaking of Roman Reigns, did you hear about this recent news about John Cena going to challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship at SummerSlam?
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind if that rumor really comes true. That's gonna be a
Yeah,
big SummerSlam match.
yeah, and SummerSlam is the second biggest show of the year, so might as well do that.
And if they are doing, I don't know what's the venue is at as of this point, but it's really
Yeah, they
gonna
haven't
boost the
confirmed
ticket
that.
sales.
It's on a Saturday, by the way, SummerSlam this time.
It really
They did
doesn't make
announce it.
a difference for the Indian market. It's really a big deal for the US market. Like, yes, we're gonna get a pay-per-view on Saturday and then just rest on a Sunday.
It makes zero sense for someone in the Gulf. Like it makes zero difference for someone in the Gulf because Sunday is a working day over here. So
But um yeah, man. The other thing I wanted to give a big shout out to Kevin Owens that he really did a great job selling that post match beatdown, and the finish was really great. Like when usually when we see an apron spot, the match doesn't end, but at this point, the match quickly ended when Apollo Crews just slammed Kevin Owens on the apron.
but did you know the apron is the hardest part of the ring?
Yeah, but this time
Now you know.
they really legitimized it now.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, man, that was SmackDown. Like I already talked about what happened with this rematches we had for the tag title situation.
You forgot two things actually.
Yes. You just reminded me. You just reminded me. You're talking about Shinsuke Nakamura versus Baron Corbin again, right?
Yes.
There's
So
another thing, but yeah. So Nakamura, who got the win here?
uh, wait. Corbin got the win, and he tried taking back the crown, but now it's a permanent thing now. Rick Boogs, and Shinsuke Nakamura are a pairing, and Nakamura takes back the crown from Corbin. So it's all about the crown. I wouldn't be surprised if they put a crown on a pole match between both of these guys.
But in the gimmick entirely, the partnership you could say with Nakamura and Rick Boogs, it's just there as of now. Like the only intrigue is the only entertaining thing about this is when they come out and you could see Pat McAfee just marking out on commentary.
Yes, special shout out to Pat McAfee, man. Ever since he's moved to SmackDown, he's been killing it.
Like
Like
he doesn't even sit
he,
down on for commentary.
yeah, that, and he seems like a natural on commentary, and the way he hypes things up like a color commentator would. I'd rate him above Corey Graves at this point because he's been that good.
Like yeah, he's way better than your Adnan works otherwise.
100%.
But
But it's a different role because Adnan was more of a play-by-play guy. He's a color analyst who's someone who's been in the ring and giving his expertise, who's not going to call move for move.
and
So in that sense,
and yeah, he's really one of those guys that makes Michael Cole's commentary look great.
I mean, Michael Cole gets an unfair rep, to be very honest, because he's been great for so long. Like the only time you could say he was insufferable was during his heel run, and after that, like around peak 2014, 2015, it's the big dog, it's boss time. That's when he gets very irritating. But
He still does.
now, like, yeah, it still does, but like since I'd say 2016 or 2017, he's gone up a notch since getting paired with Corey Graves, and yeah, actually since then he's being paired up with Corey Graves
Yeah, that's what I
for
said.
sure.
Like he needs better commentators to, just
Yeah,
carry him.
the carrying him is a bit unfair on him
I
because
think I would.
even with JBL, like back in 2006, 2007, they were genuinely great. together as a commentary team.
Yes,
But after
Magal.
that, yes, we fight on Friday night, Magal.
I
And
miss JBL,
even
man.
like as a commentator, yes. As a person, no.
I miss JBL. I miss Booker T.
I don't miss Booker T on commentary.
Booker T
Even
was
though
Booker T was the goat on commentary.
Batista is down. Batista is down.
And remember when he said that we once had a dream that Michael Cole died.
Yeah, it was him only. And up man, Booker T, like for his I wasn't a fan of Booker T on commentary, but I get why he's loved because he used to speak random nonsense and still, still hype people about it. And before we wrap up SmackDown, I want to say, like, there was this segment with Chad Gable who was trying to recruit the Street Profits and they reject him. So that also happens.
And they also stretched it. We have 2-3 segments with those tag teams.
Yes, we do.
But
And Otis goes and attacks them. So I still am not completely behind Otis as a heel, but I feel it's going to pay off somewhere down the line.
yes,
But it shouldn't be at the expense of Chad Gable, though.
from now we are going from 4 tag teams to 3 tag teams on SmackDown. If
Who's
if this storyline leads to someone breaking up, I'm talking about Otis and Chad Gable.
Yeah, if this leads to Chad Gable release, I'm all for that.
But yeah, man, that was SmackDown. That was the main roster talk. And before we leave, where can these guys find you?
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at rid_aman. And if you're watching this on video form, you could see it right above my head.
You can find Slam Hub Wrestling on Twitter at Slam Hub Debut, Instagram at Slam Hub Wrestling. You can catch this podcast in the audio version like Anchor and Spotify as well. This was the main roster talk, and we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.